going to guide you through a really simple framework that any footballer can use to identify their ultimate footballing goal and work it backwards. So break it down into manageable steps. So that goal, even though right now it might seem like a completely crazy goal, out of the question, you actually think, now this is actually quite attainable, and you're going to break it down. And these are the steps that you need to tick off along the way to ultimately achieve that goal. So this is really important because not only is it really important to have clarification for every player on why they're doing what they're doing, what are they working towards, but also motivation. So there's going to be times when a player doesn't feel like putting in, doing the extra session, and they can't rely on emotions in that moment. They have to have a clear plan, be able to zoom out and think, what am I working towards here? What's the bigger picture? And in those moments, having that clarification on what you're working towards and that bigger goal is going to help keep you motivated throughout the season, and keep doing those extra sessions even when you don't feel like it and many other players will drop off. You can stay consistent, and this is going to help you with that. So if you're not familiar with me, my name is James. I specialise in the strength and conditioning element of football performance, but the mindset side really ties into that because, like I said, if a player is required to train consistently, they're not always going to feel like it. So it's really important, the mindset side, to have that dialed in, and for a player to know what they're working towards at each step of their career or each stage of their career and what their ultimate goal is. And that's going to help with motivation, like I said. So the first thing that we need to do, and this can apply to any player of any age, but we're going to use an example of a young player who's grassroots level and their goal is to play for their country and play in the Premier League. So that is what I would call a wow goal. So we're going to pick one. And for this example, I'm just going to pick the wow goal, excuse my writing, is to play for England. Okay? So that is the first step, identifying what actually are you trying to work towards. And like I said, with this, it doesn't need to be something which it feels realistic at all right now. It should feel like if you told this to people, they'd probably laugh at you, but it needs to be something which excites you at the same time. So the wild goal is to play for England. The next step after this is identifying why. Okay, so this is a really important step. Why would you want to play for England? What are you going to get out of that? And this will be different for every player, but at this point, you're just going to brainstorm all the different points. So, for example, why would my dream to be to play for England? One would be to make my parents proud. Okay. Parents proud. This might be the same for you as well. Another one is because it's obviously something which is extremely difficult to achieve, and there's very few people who will ever do that. So it's just the challenge of it and achievement. To say you're one of the few players who's able to represent your country, challenge slash achievement. Okay. Why else might you want to? Well, it actually might be, well, the financial side. If you're playing for England, you're probably going to be playing, well, you would definitely be playing for one of the world's best club teams. So you're going to be getting paid a lot of money. So it might be the money side coming into it as well. Recognition, which ties into achievement at the same time. So there's just a few examples there. Why might you want to represent your country? Maybe it's just that feeling. It might be that feeling of walking out at a World Cup in front of thousands of fans in a stadium, all the people, the millions of people watching, having that feeling. It might be, just that alone as well. So we need to identify, first of all, our wow goal, and then why do we want to achieve that? The next step after that, just going to make a little bit of space here, is we're going to then brainstorm, break down this wow goal into steps that we're going to have to achieve or pass on that journey to hitting that. And at this point, again, we're just brainstorming. You don't need to do this in any particular order. So if you're a grassroots player, how are you going to end up playing for England first team? So you're probably, again, not in any order, let's just put down playing for a Premier League club. Okay. Another one would be playing for your country at youth level. youth level international. Another one would be playing for a professional academy. So a pro academy. Another one would be probably going right back to the start, playing for the best team at your club, so the A team at your club. Another one might be representing your district or your county or your state. Okay, along the way, you might need to be winning awards such as Player of the Season. So awards. So these are all things, like I said, which are not within your control as a footballer. You can't control getting signed by a Premier League club. You can't control getting selected for the A team, being a youth level international player, being part of getting signed by a pro academy, playing for your district, your state or your county, winning awards. You can't control any of these things. And one of the biggest, a common issue that I see is players who are obsessed with these things and they can't control them, becoming very frustrated if they don't achieve them. And that's partly because they might not have a plan to work towards achieving these things. Also because they're focused on things that they cannot control. You need to focus on the controllables and then let the things which are uncontrollable, hopefully, take care of themselves and be the byproduct of those, focusing on those controllable things, okay? So the next step from here is we're gonna then break these down into an order. So then we've got the order that we need to follow to tick those off to get closer to achieving that. So let's start. Imagine we're a grassroots player. The first thing we'll need to do is get into the A team. Apologies if my pen's not very strong. When I just rubbed the board there, it seemed to have stopped the pen working. Let's try a different one. Okay, that's a bit better, yeah. So number one, get into the A team for the club that you're at. And then in England, when I was playing, the next step up from there would be district. Okay, the next step up from there would be county. It's probably the same thing as state. From there, I've actually missed one out as well. It might be, another one might be your school team. So sometimes that's another route you can take. So playing for your school team, that might get you scouted by someone who's involved in the district or county team, or there might be pro scouts watching a school game just because there's a parent who's watching. And then that can lead into things like the schoolboys team for your country, which pro scouts will be watching as well. So that's another route you could take. So we'll add that in to number one, starting, because if you're playing grassroots, you're probably playing school team as well. That's a similar sort of level. Okay, moving on from there. So we've got into the county team, then we'd be looking at getting into, hopefully getting scouted by a pro academy, but I'm going to add in first trials. So pro trials would be the next one. So number 4, pro trials, then hopefully getting signed, pro academy. And then from your pro academy, you want to be one of the standout players. So you're then hopefully going to get a look in for your youth level international team. Okay. And then you want to stay in this environment. And then that's when hopefully you progress to the first team. So you might not be at a pro Premier League academy. So number 7 might be, you might be, say, a Championship, League 1, League 2 club. Again, just using England as an example. So it might be first team at your League 2 club. Okay. And then the next one from there might be first teams to get a transfer to a League 1, a Championship, then ultimately up to the Premier League. So that might be signing for a Premier League club, already being at a Premier League academy, or getting promoted with a team into the Premier League. So I put that as number 8. From there, you're probably going to need to start winning awards like Man of the Matches, Player of the Season before you get in the conversation for international selection. So down here we'll put awards. Again, these are just my brainstorming for this video, so any other things you can brainstorm and think of, add those in as well. And then from there, your next step would be conveniently number 10, representing your country. Okay, and then we've got a clear process that over the years we can tick off as we go. So instead of obsessing over this goal, you know, all the time and getting frustrated if you don't see much progress, I've now broken this down into 10 different steps. So your focus for this season should be to get into the district team. Once that is achieved, and it might take less than a season, then your next focus would be county team, at the same time as trying to get pro trials. So you might skip some of these steps. That's fine, but again, it's just having that process in your mind, and it's really simple. This is nothing groundbreaking, but sometimes if you just don't know to think about things in this way, and you've never done this sort of thing, getting it down on paper can really help just manage your thoughts and help you stay focused and motivated. Okay. The other thing which is really important to identify is the time frame. So you're right up here. Time frame. Okay, so from where you are now to this ultimate goal, how long do you think that's going to take you? So let's say a player is 10 years old and by the age of 22 they want to be in the England team. You've got 12 years to try and achieve this, and then from there you could go into, well, I'm probably going to need at least 2 years playing in the Premier League. So that's 10 years. I'm then going to need 3 or 4 years potentially in a pro academy or at first team level. So you can see, every player's journey is going to be different, but you can break it down. So have that time frame in mind as well, and then you can know, at what point do you need to hopefully be targeting to achieve each of these milestones. And if you're ahead of the plan, then great. Don't take your foot off the gas. But if you're behind, don't get frustrated, because remember, these are the things we can't control. This isn't our main focus. So the things that we can't control, we're going to break this down further, and I'm going to do that in the next video. So we've got the uncontrollable things, and then in the next one, we're going to break down the controllable things that we can do day to day to try and maximize our chances of all of these things happening and making this journey as realistic a thing as possible. And whereas, before doing this type of thing, it might have just been a dream in your head and not really knowing what, day to day, just turn up to team training sessions, doing what every other player is doing, and just hoping someone's going to be watching. This way, you're going to have an actual plan you've got control over, and it's going to help focus your mindset, keep you motivated as well. So if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see the part 2, give it a thumbs up, and if I get enough thumbs up, I'll do the part 2 video. If you want to dive deeper into this and just go into part 2 straight away, I've got a full football mental mastery course. It's linked below this video. It covers everything that we've covered here. This is goal setting part 1. Covers everything here. There's also goal setting part 2 and part 3 as well. So in part 2, like I said, we're going to be identifying, we're going to pick the first goal that we're going to be working towards. So it would be district or perhaps county. We're going to break that down into 3 things, into 3 sub goals, and then we're going to break that down further into daily habits, which are going to maximize your chances. So again, really simple, nothing, groundbreaking, like I said, but just having this framework can sometimes help process your thoughts, keep you motivated, and actually make you really excited about the journey that you're on and trying to achieve these goals and become a better person at the same time as becoming a better player. Because let's say you get to pro academy level, but you don't progress any further, that experience can have a carryover to all different aspects of your life, and it might lead to something else which is even better, such as coaching, or something completely outside of sport. If you meet someone, and it just leads to different opportunities. So just by trying to better yourself as a footballer and go on this journey and break it down, trying to achieve that elite high level, it can lead to all different sorts of things. But yeah, like I said, give us a thumbs up if you want to see part 2, and I'll get that video made next week. And if you want to dive straight into the course, the link is below this video as well. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you in the next one.